now call the regular meeting of the police jury dated Thursday, August 4, 2011 to order. We will have the invocation by Ms. Griffin and followed by the pledge by Mr. Andrew Pont. Please stand.
Let us pray. Taste and see that the Lord, He is good and His mercy endureth forever. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful that you have allowed for us to meet today to take care of business for these your people. We ask that you would be with us as we make decisions and that they will be pleasing in your sight. We ask for a special blessing upon the United States of America and that you will find the state of Louisiana and the people of Calcasieu Parish as the apples of your eyes. Have mercy on us on this day. We grant unto you all of the glory that you deserve because of who you are. And now, in the name of Jesus, we ask for the acceptance of this prayer. Amen.
Amen. Please recite with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Mr. Andrew Pont. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Andrew Pont?
Here.
Mr. Clement?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnham?
Here.
Mrs. Griffin?
Present.
Mr. Guidry? Mr. Landry?
Here.
Dr. Mackey?
Present.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Spell?
Here.
Mr. Stelly?
Here.
Mr. Sias?
Present.
Mrs. Trimming? Here. And President Brain.
Here. Thank you, Kathy. I ask if anybody in the audience has a cell phone, if you just put it to silent. Also, if you'd like to speak on any item on the agenda tonight, there's some blue slips in the back of the room. If you just fill them out and bring them up to Jessica, she'll get them to us. With that said, we'll go to item number 4, appearance of Mr. Dale Bayard with reference to his candidacy for re-election to the Louisiana Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, 7th District Representative.
Good evening,
Bayard.
Calcasieu Parish Police Jury and Mr. Beam, staff, and citizens of Calcasieu. I'd like to start off by saying that when I first was elected to the police jury a number of years ago, back in '90, I guess, I never thought that I would ever do anything else. I enjoyed the police jury. It was a thoroughly enjoyable position, mainly because of the comrades, the fellowship, the people you serve. Each and every individual citizen that had an issue about a ditch that wasn't draining properly, or a pothole, or a zoning issue where they didn't want to have something next door to them, or any of that stuff. You know, it really was fun, because I think the greatest attribute of serving in public office and elective office is serving your fellow man. In 1981 in San Antonio, Texas, Ronald Reagan said, after God, salvation lies in the hands of our volunteers. And that's really what this is all about. We're volunteering to help our fellow man. So when I ran for Bessie, I had a very sincere interest, deep interest in education. I saw a lot of benefits from education when I was growing up. I was able to go to McNeese and get my degree. I wanted to be in education. I really did. One of my high school coaches had a very old Volkswagen, and I always thought he was nostalgic, and that's why I had it. But he told me he was flat broke. He made no money. So it quickly discouraged me from wanting to be a coach and a teacher and all that stuff that goes with it. So I had to find another profession. But my father died when I was a young man. Just gotten out of college, just gotten married, and I had some young siblings at home. And my mother couldn't care for all of them like she wanted to. Post 4 p.m. reinforcement and education was something she had struggled with. Although she was an educated lady, when you have 6 kids still in school, that's hard. And I remember the teachers. I had a couple of brothers who just didn't quite cut it in school, and the teachers working overtime to make sure that they did what they needed to do. And that convinced me where the heart and compassion for our youth lied in society. It lied in the hands of our teachers, because I thought that they did an exceptional job with them. After I left Baton Rouge yesterday for an emergency meeting, I drove to the school board meeting in Lafayette Parish and addressed the school board there. And then upon that, I left for a surprise birthday for 50th birthday for my younger brother. And today he graduated high school and went on to become a machinist, and he's a superintendent with National Allwell. You may have heard of the outfit. He's been with them a long time. Has a very important job. And he'll tell you that he enjoyed his education and he enjoyed what he had to do as a young man without a father. Without a father. He was a youngster, a freshman in high school. Sophomore, rather, I guess he was. But nonetheless, that is one of the issues or one of the examples I can tell you. There are many, many more like that. Teachers are important to us. So I served 3 terms, and I'm seeking a 4th. I never thought I would serve more than 1 or 2. Well, here I am going for a 4th. There are some issues in the campaign that have driven me to want to run again. Very simple decision. Money is critical. We must spend it wisely. And one thing I value about local government is that you govern close to the people. And if someone is not doing right, then the people are hurt. In Baton Rouge, it's not always like that. In my position especially, it's not always like that. Even though they talk to me, if I'm on the minor side or the minority side of the vote, their voice isn't heard. And I'm hoping we change the balance of power on that board. There are some things that we're doing that I'm totally against. First and foremost is the level of salaries in the Department of Education is way out of line with local school districts, way out of line. A principal in this parish for an elementary school works 70 hours a week, 30 weeks a year. And that principal may make $58,000 with top credentials, master's plus 20 years service. In Baton Rouge, that same individual can go and almost not command, but receive double that salary. Now, what we have in Baton Rouge are 2 classes, non-classified and classified employees. Those individuals I speak of are non-classified employees, but it doesn't exempt them from spiking their retirement. It doesn't exempt them at all. So I can work here 25 years, and if I'm a good friend of Dale and he becomes whatever, he can get me a job in the Department of Education making a lot of money, and in 4 years my retirement spiked. And the spiked retirement, to me, creates more liability on our hands for the retirement system. And when you're investing in the stock market to subsidize revenues to fund those retirement dollars, and the market doesn't do that well, we have to bail it out. We have local school districts. Their liability in the retirement system is growing and growing and growing. Why is that? Because the retirement system is a whole unit. It's not an individual unit. It's the entire state. So if one of us is receiving $85,000 or $100,000 a year, after only working 20 years at a low salary, but because of a 4 or 5 year tenure or term, I've got a nice retirement, and that's wrong. It's unfair to that teacher who toils in the classroom for 30 years, positively affecting character, getting our children to achieve at the highest level possible. It's wrong, it's unfair. We got to stop that. And if I'm reelected and there's a balance of power in that board, we will address those salaries. Now, while it may only be 15 or 20, hopefully it can carry over to other branches of state government. We have to do that. There are some things about education that you don't even hear about, and it's the unfairness of comparison of Louisiana kids. You know, you often read about how well we do in graduation rates or how poorly we do with graduation rates. Folks, nearly half the states have no graduate exit exam. You pass your Carnegie units and you get out. So Les, if you fail in English and you do 2 extra book reports, or you can get one of my copies of Moby Dick and turn it in, you may get a C. And then you're able to ascend to the next grade, and then after your Carnegie units are done, you graduate with a diploma. Not in Louisiana. You have to pass a graduate exit exam. And now we've made it more stringent. Above all, the states that's being heralded as a state with the least intelligence, we're making it more difficult to get out of school. We've increased the Carnegie units. ACT scores to enter colleges and universities has gone up. But now we have end-of-course assessment. You can't take English 2 until you pass an end-of-course assessment that the state gives. So, what are we trying to do? Not run kids out of school, but challenge them. Kids who are challenged will do better than otherwise. Another thing we have to look at is, I mentioned ACT scores. You know, Louisiana is one of the 2 or 3 states in the nation with those 75 percentile of the kids taking ACT. Yet half the states have anywhere from 50 to 55% taking post-secondary entrance exam requirement test courses like ACT, SAT, etc. So to give you an analogy, for those of you who played baseball, if only your 300 hitters went to bat, what's your team batting average? And that's what we got going on nationwide. I was a preacher against that when I was first elected. By the way, it's come to pass. We now have National Core and the American Diploma Project where all children who go through school will be graded on the same scale as far as graduation requirements and the exit exam. So each state now will have, I think one opted out, but I think just about all of them did. When all that's said and done, I expect Louisiana's graduation numbers to be more like 27th or 28th in the nation and not 40 some odd, 43rd or whatever we are. There's some other things we've done in education that a lot of people don't hear about. We made it very hard to be a teacher. Very difficult to be a teacher. The practice scores that you have to pass for content mastery, methods ability, and the way you teach children, you have to be better at it. So what are we doing? We're making our teachers better. We've been nationally awarded because of that as a state that leads the nation in efforts to improve teacher quality. I can go on and on about what we're doing with our kids. But really, I think our flagship program is the LA4 program. It's pre-K entrance for needy children who don't have at home what other kids have. As a result, in our first test and our first analyses of third graders, our special ed identification was reduced by 50%. Special ed kids cost more to educate. In the long run, will save money. But more importantly, when you keep kids from falling 1 and 2 grade levels behind, you reduce incarceration numbers, you increase graduation rates, and we have better citizens. But nonetheless, I love all y'all. I really do. I miss serving on the jury, believe it or not, because every Thursday used to come around. I used to thoroughly enjoy coming over here. It was fun. We had some arguments and debates, but the bottom line was it was just great to hang out with everybody. So I wish all y'all the best, and good luck to you. Calcasieu is still a great parish, and we still get compliments statewide about everything. By the way, do you know that most people in this state don't know that all of our traversable roads with inhabitants is blacktop? They tell me, oh, that's not true. I said, well, just go drive. There's 1,200 and some odd miles. Go drive them all. I'll show you. But anyway, that just says a lot what we're doing here. We're very progressive.
Thank you, Mr. Bayard. Good luck to you.
All righty.
Okay, I have a point of personal privilege by Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me at the podium.
Yes, ma'am.
To my colleagues and our citizens visiting us today, I have a special acknowledgement that I would like to do, and I'm sure that you will agree with me. This young man represented Calcasieu Parish and has succeeded in bringing us a big, great, successful story, and I want to share that with you. I received a telephone call from Mrs. Moses, who called and told me about this young man, and I'm sure you're familiar with Miss Moses because she's been up here several times. She works very, very hard with children, spending long hours with our youth. So when she called, of course, I was glad to hear from her. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Jonathan Gallion to come up and Miss Moses to tell us something about the young man and the great thing that he has done for Calcasieu Parish. Just let me say one thing for clarification. As most of you know, we are great supporters of our youth, and we are very excited when our young adults go out and do something good to bring a bright light to the people of Calcasieu Parish. And so I thank you and appreciate you because we do this often. And so here's another one. It just gives us hope for our future because hopefully Jonathan will come back home after he receives his engineering degree. Ms. Moses, come up, please, and tell us a little bit, and then the president will read him his acknowledgement.
Good afternoon to all of you, and I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity I am indeed very, very proud of the young people that I work with. Teaching goes on and on. You leave the classroom, you retire, but you must go on with your students that's in the organization. The organization that I work with is called Top Teens of America, that's sponsored by Top Ladies of Distinction. And we have 5 thrusts that we work with. It's beautification, senior citizens, status of women, partnership with other organizations, and top teens. This summer, I was very, very happy to bring a group of students to San Diego for our national convention. Now, we have been working very, very hard on all of the projects that we have been doing. In our scholarships, it is very important that young people participate in service, giving service to their community. Jonathan Gallion has participated in all service, beautifying the community, working with the March of Dimes. And this year we wanted to make sure that we raised quite a bit of money because we had been kind of slow in raising money for the March of Dimes. So Nick is here tonight, and he said, Chester, I'm going to help you this year. I said, okay, Nick, we need the money because Texas is always beating us in raising money. So he said, I'm going to give you Sunday, and you make sure you get some people to come in. I'm going to sell the lunch for $25. I'm going to keep 5, and you're going to keep 20. Within 2 hours, or maybe 2.5 hours, we had raised $1,000. And when we went to the conference, we turned in our money, and with all of the areas, we raised $39,000, $563 for the March of Dimes.
Wow.
But now, that's not all. We have a National Scholarship Award. And Jonathan, come up here, Jonathan. Jonathan could not make the conference that particular day because his sister gave him a free ticket to go to Hawaii for his graduation.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there waiting for them to call the names to see who won the scholarship. They called, it's 5 areas. When we got to number 5, they called Jonathan Gallion, scholarship award of $5,000. I think I must have knocked somebody's head off running up there to speak for Jonathan. Jonathan also got a scholarship, a full scholarship at Rice University paid.
Wow.
He is majoring in chemical engineering. Jonathan is a student of Borup High School. But Jonathan's parents push him very, very hard. And it takes the parents to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And it's just not the teachers. It has to be the teachers and the parents.
Amen.
So we are working together. And those persons who have groups within the community, you are to also push the young people. Even though school is out, I think I've still been working the whole summer. But now this is Jonathan Gallion. Jonathan, you want to tell them a little bit about your chemical engineering?
A little bit. We can't understand it, though.
Okay.
Jonathan, I'm going to present you with the certificate of recognition presented by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury on this 4th day of August 2011 to Mr. Jonathan Gallion in honor and recognition of receiving the National Scholarship of the Year from the Top Ladies of Distinction, Top Teens of America organization, and also receiving a full scholarship to Rice University, majoring in chemical engineering. Congratulations.
I'm not much of a public speaker. Thank you.
Like an engineer. You'll make a good one.
Jonathan, we want you to come back to Calcasieu Parish when you get your engineering degree because we'll need you. So, my colleagues, thank you again for your time. I'm going to take a couple of pictures with Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Okay, I now have a personal point of privilege by Mr. Anderpont.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the jury. I am privileged at this time to introduce to you a gentleman from Plaquemine Parish who is asked for a point of personal privilege to address this body with reference to coastal restoration. The president of Plaquemine Parish, Mr. Billy Nungesser, was supposed to be here. He's unable to be here. But at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. P.J. Hahn, who is director.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderpont, and thank you, jurors of Calcasieu Parish, for having me here tonight. We were on the agenda earlier, I thought, and came in and I didn't see our name, so I apologize, and I'll be brief. President Nungesser, our president, want to address the Calcasieu Parish and tell them some of the problems that we're having down in Plaquemines that are also unique to the problems that you will probably be having here, and that is with the permitting process that we have right now in place, coastal restoration will fail if we don't change something. During the oil spill, we learned a lot, and one of the things we learned is that average permit to do a coastal project is 4 years. That's unacceptable. Most of the projects take 10 to 12 years on the average. We'll never catch up with coastal restoration if we don't change the permitting process. Our coast has been studied to death and engineered to death. We need to start the projects. During the oil spill, we came up with the idea of building the berm. The berm came off of our coastal projects that we were building early on, 4 years prior to the oil spill. It'd been studied, it'd been engineered, and had been well thought of. When the oil spill started, we wanted to do a smaller version of building up our barrier islands, and that was how the berms were created and started. We were able to do right or wrong. I know there was some controversy about whether they were right or wrong. The bottom line is most of the scientists now have called them the silver lining of the oil spill, and that's because of the great things that they're doing to our coast right now. One of the things that came out of the oil spill was that we were able to permit that project in 19 days. That was the largest coastal project ever in the history of the United States, and we were able to follow full NEPA process and did it in 19 days. And that just shows that it can be done, and we need to change the process. Just like we did for the oil spill, we need to use that same process, the same leadership that we had at that time, and change the permitting. And before you, what I did, besides I brought some little baubles and trinkets, President Nungesser always wants us to bring stuff, so I brought hats, a key to the parish, and the oil book there is also from Plaquemines. Kind of an update, and there's a disc inside there if you want to look at it on the computer. Has a lot of the pictures and kind of catch you up to where we are. But also within that packet is a resolution that we put together. We're asking you to read it, change it in any form that you want for yourselves, to suit yourselves. But we're asking that you would consider passing this resolution. We have addressed every coastal parish, every coastal city in Louisiana, and we are planning to take all of these resolutions from each individual parish and city and take them to meet with Lisa Jackson, who is head of the EPA, who is also overseeing the berm project and understands the problems that we have gone through. She has a meeting in October with President Obama. We are hoping that she makes these recommendations that we have in this resolution to change the permitting process so that we can get these projects down on the ground a lot faster. If BP gave us all the money in the world tomorrow, we're looking at 4 years before you'll see the first grain of sand turned in this parish or your parish, our parish, or any other parish. That's unacceptable. We are losing at a rate of a football field every 45 minutes of our marsh and coastland, and that's unacceptable if we don't change this one process. And again, I want to thank you very, very much for having me. If any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'd also like to have Mr. Nungesser back here when you guys do put it on the agenda, because I'm sure he'd like to talk to you about it some more, and just in case any questions come up at that time.
That'd be great, Mr. Hahn. Mr. Anderpont?
Thank you, Mr. President. Two things. Number one, have you all thought about, or you're going to send this resolution to the Police Jury Association for a statewide endorsement?
Great idea, and actually we've been hitting each coastal parish and city, but that's a great idea, and I'm going to mention that to Mr. Nungesser when I get back.
And it needs to be done, first of all, and secondly, Brian, I suspect that after we review this, that we put it on the agenda for consideration at some point in time.
Yes, we can do that. Okay. We'll get that to y'all once we hear.
That would be great. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Any other jurors have any questions? Mr. Hahn, thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, with that said, we'll go to item 5. Take appropriate action on applications for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Vickers?
Mr. President, I'm pleased to advise that we have no applications tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Vickers. Item 6, consideration of approval of payment of all current invoices.
So moved.
Have a motion by Dr. Mackey, and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 7, consideration of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated July 7, 2011. Have a motion by Mr. Scott, second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 8, consideration of approving the Public Works Committee reported
Move on 8, all bullets.
July 28, 2011. Have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Well, let me go ahead and read the items, I'm sorry. 8.1, received presentation of the 2011 Police Jury Association of Louisiana Scholarship Award to Ms. Jennifer C. Bro, a student at McNeese State University majoring in government and paralegal studies. 8.2, received presentation by Mr. Lee Mallett with the reference to the Academy of Training Facility located in Lacassine, Louisiana. 8.3, recommended that a resolution be adopted approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the city of Sulphur, approving funding in the amount of $16,660 for the drainage improvements at the intersection of Evelyn Street and East End Avenue. 8.4, recommended that a resolution be adopted authorizing the president of the police jury to execute the necessary documents for acquisition of right-of-way on Park Road in Ward 1. 8.5, recommended that a resolution be adopted authorizing the president of the police jury to execute the necessary documents for the expropriation of right-of-way on Corbina Road in Ward 3. 8.6, recommended the Calcasieu Parish project number 2011-02 overlaying of various roads in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana be accepted as substantially complete. And without any further discussion and objection, that motion will carry. Item 9, consideration of approving the agenda committee report dated July 28, 2011.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. McMillan, a second by Mr. Fornum. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 10, consideration of adopting a resolution in opposition to the possible closure of the Moss Bluff Post Office,
So moved.
Second.
which is currently being studied by the U.S. Postal Service. Mr. Spell.
Thank you, President Brame. For those unaware, last week it was announced that the Moss Bluff Postal Station was on a chopping block list by the U.S. Postal Service as a station to potentially be closed. I've done a little bit of work looking in and trying to acquire some information. And with the data that I have acquired at this time, it still appears to me that really the only way I can describe it is that the idea that this station is on the chopping block list, in my opinion, is absurd and ridiculous. Ward 1 community is separated geographically from the rest of the parish by a river. Population, according to the 2010 census, of almost 20,000 people, which basically is a population that has doubled over the last 2 decades and is continuing to grow. Not to mention that the impact it will have on not only the residents, but commerce and business in Ward 1. We have been coordinating with Congressman Boustany's office on this issue. We have also received a letter signed by Representative Guyman, Representative Cleckley, Representative Danahay, Representative Gwynn, Senator Morrish, Representative A.B. Franklin, and Senator Mount in opposition to this closure. And I believe that for this decision to be made by the Postal Service would be an extreme disjustice to this community. And I would gratefully, on behalf of the people of Ward 1, appreciate the support of the jury on this resolution opposing the closure of this office. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Spell. I do have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Spell. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion will carry. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Okay, we'll go to item 11, consideration of adopting a resolution.
Move on 11.
Approving a cooperative endeavor development agreement between the police jury, the city of Lake Charles, the Lake Charles Harbor and Terminal District, and Creative Casinos of Louisiana, LLC, for the development of a hotel casino resort complex to be located on property belonging to the Lake Charles Harbor and Terminal District. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Ms. Griffin. Mr. Beam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to just cover a few highlights of this and then, of course, answer any questions you may have. But to clarify, this is a development agreement between the parties Mr. Brame read out, the city, the parish, the port, and Creative Casinos. It is not a head tax agreement. The head tax agreement is a separate document. It is referenced in this agreement, but it is slated to be handled at a later date. This one is needed for everything to go forward. The company is going forward with pursuing its financing of the project, and as you can imagine, this is something that's needed to get all cleared before they can go further. The City Council passed this last night at its meeting unanimously. But what it does, just to hit the highlights, it commits the Creative Casinos Company to do the Mojito Point project, hotel and casino, on property owned by the port, or the Harbor and Terminal District. They also are committing to approximately $17.2 million in interior road construction. And Tom has put up a aerial of that, and it's sort of hard to see, but he can outline in yellow. It's a fairly faint yellow on there, but you can see the part that he is outlining. That would be the road infrastructure built by the company to be turned over to city or state maintenance, depending on whether it's a frontage road or interior. There is a separate road that actually goes to the complex itself to be built, but that will be privately built and maintained by the casino. That is their commitment in this project, as well as, of course, building it. What they have in the agreement for the water and sewer is to have the city do that. All the rights of way, so forth, have to be acquired as well. The parish's part in that would have the city and parish share in the water and sewer improvements needed. This is, of course, a major project. It serves everyone parish-wide. Y'all represent everybody in the parish, including those in the city. The parish applies property taxes, levies property taxes parish-wide, so there is a benefit from that. The way this agreement is structured, the city and parish at a later date would work out the details of that cost share, but approximately $10.5 to $11 million in sewer and water improvements are envisioned to have this project completed. That includes right-of-way acquisition as well as some plant capacity for water, and the city can go into more detail. And I know there's representatives here from Myron Associates as well as far as any of the road improvements if you have any questions. But those are the main 2 points tonight, or a few points tonight that we wanted to cover. Again, at a later date, we would come back with a head tax agreement proposal that we would work through. This agreement does have the company commit to paying 4.2% to local bodies to cover their part of any head tax revenue, so that they know their commitment and they can, of course, bring that forward to whoever they need to pursue the financing, so they can tie that up. Those are the main highlights of the agreement. We certainly, I'll try to entertain any questions you may have, or if some other questions. Mr. Smith has been very involved in this, or representatives of the company are here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. We do have Mr. Guidry, like to.
Just one thing.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
President, Madam Secretary, just let the record reflect that I have recused myself from this vote. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Spill.
Mr. Beam, just a real quick clarification. Tonight, we're voting on the head tax agreement that has been involved with LaBerge and the other casinos in the area and bringing Mojito Point into this agreement. We're not actually making any decision on this project tonight. Is that correct?
Actually, no. It's you're not voting on the head tax agreement. You are, it's a development agreement is how it's worded. And it stipulates the obligations to have everything, basically what's going to be built there. And so from the company's standpoint, it's the complex plus the road infrastructure that's shown, which has a benefit to the casino, and it also has a public benefit. So that is a big part of this. And it also stipulates the water and sewer improvements, and it gets into things mainly that deal with the city, such as fire protection, permitting, a lot of those details. And it doesn't get into the allocation of the head tax. It just puts a cap on what the company is going to pay out, but it doesn't get into the details of the actual head tax and how it's distributed locally.
So we're moving forward with the development, and these details will be worked out at a later date.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a tremendous asset for the community. This is the first step in the infrastructure for Mojito Point, a $4 million project to come to our parish. I'm excited to get a chance to vote on this to move this project forward. Thank you, Mr. Beam. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Beam, this $11 million, we're going to be basically responsible for maybe 20%. We're talking up to $2 million. I mean, is that?
We've had several meetings with the city on this, and I want to give the city credit. They're willing to work out the details later on exactly the share. I think we will certainly come back to you with something that is proportionate based on, you know, the size of the project and revenues. I would estimate right now, you know, maybe the $2 million range total that might come from the parish. So yes, roughly 20%, and that could be paid, probably would be over a period of 3 to 5 years. It could come from future revenues that you're not even, that you would receive. And again, just one example, not counting the jobs and everything else, just the property tax estimates from our parish-wide entities, Mosquito Control Library, Juvenile Justice Health Unit, and others, roughly $1 million a year just in that. So I think it'd be well worth that rough range of dollars I'm giving you.
Okay.
But it's to be worked out later. That is not an amount committed in this agreement.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Is there any other discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion will carry. Thank you, Mr. Bain. Okay, we'll go to item 12, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the Louisiana State University and Agricultural and Mechanical College Cooperative Extension Service for the continued services provided by the Cooperative Extension Service in Calcasieu Parish and the police jury's continued financial support of those services. Have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 13, consideration of adopting a resolution indicating objection, no objection.
Move.
Following proposed project in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana. 13-1, proposal of James E. Gagno Jr. to install and maintain a covered boat lift for shoreline protection and support private recreational activities. The planning staff recommends that the police jury indicates no objection to this request. Have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 14, consideration of adopting
Move on 14.
a resolution of urgent need approving the submittal of applications to the Louisiana Office of Community Development Disaster Recovery Unit for the Gustav Ike CDBG Disaster Recovery Program projects. Have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Fornum. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 15, consideration of approving the
Move on 15 on bullets.
of the Division of Planning and Development in reference to the adjudicated property sale conducted on July 26, 2011 on the following cases. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is that on all bullets, Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll read them in the record. 15-1, 409 Gelpy Drive, $2,000 by Mr. Craig Evans be accepted. 15-2, 1021 Orange Street, vacant lot, $3,500 by Mr. Craig Evans. be accepted. 15-3, 2400 block Dewey Street, vacant lot. No bids were received, therefore this property will be re-advertised. 15-4, Mills and Gall Street, vacant lot. No bids were received, therefore this property will be re-advertised. 15-5, 100 block of North Lines, vacant lot. $300 by Mr. Craig Evans be accepted. 15-6, Railroad Avenue and Line Street, vacant lot. No bids were received, therefore this property will be re-advertised. 15-7, 2009 Pear Lane, vacant lot. No bids were received, therefore this property will be re-advertised. 15-8, 123, 125, and 127 Kirkman Street, vacant lot. $3,200 by Mr. Brian Broussard be accepted. 15-9 is 128 North Line Street, vacant lot. $300 by Mr. Craig Evans be accepted. 15-10, 600 block Simmons Street, vacant lot. $2,100 by Mr. Craig Evans be accepted. 15-11 is 1720 Mill Street, vacant lot. No bids were received, therefore this property will be re-advertised. 15-12 Evangeline Highway, wooded lot, $1,000 by Miss Tammy Manasco be accepted. 15-13, thank y'all. 15-13, corner of Hargrove Loop and Borough Road, wooded lot, $3,000 by Mr. Steve Robertson be accepted. 15-14, 721 Murbell Road, structure on lot, no action necessary. This property has been redeemed. 15-17-07 Broad Street, structure on lot, $48,000 by Mr. Murphy Bellard be accepted. 15-16 is 800 Fancher Street, vacant lot, $100 by Miss Earlene Prescott be accepted. 15-17, 600 block of Pear Street, vacant lot, $200 by Mr. Albert Delafossi be accepted. 15-18, 800 block of Rigmatum Cemetery Road, wooded lot. No bids were received, therefore this property will be re-advertised, and that is it. Motion by Mr. Collins, second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Landry.
Mr. Vickers, on that, 15-15, that piece of property's got a bunch of junk cars and all kinds of mess on it. How long do you think until that guy's gonna clean that up?
So that's a good question.
That's the kind I try to ask.
Well, the City of Lake Charles code enforcement officers did come to our hearing on that. They're very interested in getting it cleaned up and so forth. So I think that they are really pushing the button on trying to make this guy do something pretty quick.
But it's gonna be the guy that bought it, not the guy that lost it.
Well, that's true, but it may get redeemed. And if it does get redeemed again, then we kind of start all over.
It's probably not gonna get redeemed, I don't believe, but it might. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. No objection. We'll move to item 16. Consideration adopting
Move
a
on 16.
resolution approving the renewal of a lease agreement between the police jury and Gilry and McCall LLC for office space on a portion of the 10th floor of the 901 Lakeshore Building. Have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 17.
Move on 17.
Second.
Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the renewal of a joint services agreement between the police jury and Cameron Parish Mosquito Abatement District Number 1 regarding mutual aerial mosquito control services between the parish during times of need. Have a motion by Mr. Farnham and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 18. Consideration of adopting a resolution approving an addendum to the contract for architectural services between the police jury and Moss Architects, Inc. for the plans and specifications related to the Southwest Region 5 Corners Office Generator Project to include air conditioning, mechanical equipment repairs. Have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 19, consideration
19.
of adopting a resolution authorizing the parish administrator to advertise for oil, gas, and mineral lease in Ward 6. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries.
Move on number 20.
Item 20 is consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the parish administrator to advertise for oil, gas, and mineral lease in Ward 6. I have a motion by Mr. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 21, take appropriate action on bids received
Move on 21.
for proposals.
All bullet.
Bids request for proposals received by the parish purchase agent on July 27, 2011 for the following. 21-1, sign blank, sign face, and sheeting material, pavement marking, metal signs, category 6 FTP cable, and metal pipe. 21-2 is 2 aerial application guidance systems for use by mosquito control. I have a motion by Mr. Andrew Pont.
Mr. President, 21-2 is to be deferred till August 18th.
Okay, I'm sorry. Agenda notes does say staff request that this item be deferred till August 18, 2011. Is that just on 21-2?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion by Mr. Andrew Pont and a second by Mr. Fornum, and that's just on 21-1. Any discussion? What y'all laughing at?
I just want to apologize for you, Vice President. I think he should have pointed that out to you, and that wouldn't have happened.
I agree.
I accept all responsibility, Mr. President.
Thank you. I need some help. Okay, no objection. We'll move on to item 22. Take appropriate action on bids received by the parish purchasing agent on the August 2nd, 2011 for the following. 22.1 is 2 trash compactors with 4 container boxes for use by the Division of Engineering and Public Works, and 22.2 is 1 2011 or 2012 3/4 ton extended cab and chassis pickup truck with utility bed and towing package. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 23, take appropriate action
Move to appoint Mr. Johnny Stanley.
to fill a vacancy on the Board of Commissioners of Community Center and Playground District Number 2 of Ward 4, created by the resignation of Mr. Dave Aguilar. The Agenda Committee recommends that Mr. Johnny Stanley be appointed, and that motion is made by Mr. Fornum and second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 24, take appropriate action on the vacancy created by the
Move
resignation
to uphold the agenda committee.
of Mr. Ronnie Johns as a member of the Human Services District for Region 5 area of the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. The Agenda Committee recommends that the action be deferred for 30 days. And that motion is made by Mr. Mackey, second by Mr. Size. Dr. Mackey, I'm sorry.
Don't make it. Don't make it.
Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 25, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Jimmy Petrie as a member of the Burton Coliseum Advisory Board. The Agenda Committee recommends that Mr. Bill Youngblood be appointed. Have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 26, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Mark LeBlanc as a member of the Burton Coliseum Advisory Council. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. LeBlanc be reappointed. Have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 27, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Mark Peterson as a member of the Burton Coliseum Advisory Board Council. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Peterson be reappointed. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 28, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Brad West as a member of the Workforce Investment Board. The Agenda Committee recommended that Ms. Michelle Hebert be appointed. Have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 29, take appropriate action on
Move on
the expiration of the term of Mr. Larry Mouton as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Waterworks District Number 9 of Ward 4. The Agenda Committee recommends that Mr. Mouton be reappointed. I have that motion by Mr. Clement, second by Mr. Fornum. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 30, take appropriate action on the expiration of
Move
the
to
term of
reappoint
Mr.
Clinton
Clinton
Leger.
P. Leger as a
Second.
member of the Board of Commissioners of Gravity Drainage District Number 7 of Ward 8. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Leger be reappointed. Have a motion by Mr. Stelly. Who made second?
Mr. Guidry.
Mr. Guidry. Okay. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. Item 31, take appropriate
Move to
action
reappoint Mr.
on
Melvin
the
Rougeau.
expiration of the term of Mr. Melvin Rougeau as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Gravity Drainage District Number 7 of Ward 8. The Agenda Committee recommended that Mr. Rougeau be reappointed. Have that motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 32, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Ms. Nancy Falk as
Move
a
to
member of the
reappoint.
Board of
Second.
Commissioners of Ward 4 Fire Protection District Number 4. The Agenda Committee recommends that Ms. Falk be reappointed. Have that motion by Mr. Trimmy and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 33, take appropriate action on the expiration of
Move
the
to
term of
reappoint
Ms.
Mr. King.
Glenn King as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Ward 4 Fire Protection District Number 4. The Agenda Committee recommends that Mr. King be reappointed. Have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Ms. Trimmy. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Can I get an item to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Motion by an item to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.